right, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Alistair Spears. I'm a Senior Operations PM for the Office team. My focus is on managing our end-of-life and service lifecycle capabilities for Office and Office 365, as well as also Exchange, SharePoint, Skype for Business, and the other Office products that we make as well. Because of this, my team has started to call me the funeral director of Office. I'm responsible for all the end-of-life moments for our Office products and services. I don't mind so much. Being a director sounds like a promotion, even if it's a funeral director. So let's get into it. And first let's talk about Office 2007. And Office 2007 for us was a pretty monumental release. And it's kind of strange to think about Office 2007 as being 10 years old this year. It seems like only yesterday we were battling with the ribbon for the first time. It was a really big release for us in a number of different ways. The ribbon, of course, was huge as perhaps the major fundamental change in the way that Office looked and felt for 30 years at the time. And it really improved user productivity. We spent a lot of time studying, analyzing, tracking those sorts of changes, because it's a big deal to change something like Office, used by about 1 billion people. Everyone's familiar with the file menu, the edit menu, the view menu, and to mix that up was a pretty monumental undertaking. But what we found was it was actually really improving use of the tools itself. We saw within 6 months the average feature usage for Word doubled. Excel increased 4 times. And PowerPoint is perhaps the most surprising one, went up by 12x the amount of features people used in PowerPoint from PowerPoint 2003 to 2007. Now, we didn't add all those new features into the product in 2007. It's just we hadn't had a great way to expose them to users. They were buried in menus, and you had to kind of recall where those features were. So the ribbon really made a lot of that Office capability much more discoverable. At the same time, we introduced a new file format, the OpenXML file format. This file format we took to the ECMA standards body, we took it to the ISO standards body after that, and it became the OpenXML standard. This was very significant for government organizations, for healthcare organizations, and other organizations that developed automation on top of Office applications, because rather than just a binary blob of a file in Office, all of a sudden you could treat an Office document like an XML document and generate an XML document much easier than you could before. We also spent a lot of effort building this data sharing between applications. You could take, for instance, a chart out of Excel and put it in PowerPoint and still have it be a chart rather than a picture, make changes to the fonts and those sorts of things, and have that rich data sharing between those applications as well. And Office 2007, or the 2007 wave of SharePoint, Exchange, Office Communications Server 2007, were the first products that we tried to run in a cloud environment called Microsoft BPOS, or what we lovingly refer to now as the big piece of software that we once built, which has now, of course, been replaced by Office 365. But it was our first baby step into this kind of cloud model that's so pervasive today. All good things come to pass. And so 2017 marks the retirement of Office 2007. And for most of this presentation, I'll talk about why these retirements are important to manage, what it means for your organizations, how to transition, also how Microsoft can help. And I'd like to give you some kind of concrete next steps. So when you do come across these retirement moments, whether it's Office 2007, Office 2010, you can understand how we think about it at Microsoft, the actions that get kicked off inside of Microsoft, as well as the actions that we kick off publicly for our customers and partners to help with as well. So Office 2007 is a little bit different, and it's different for a number of reasons. There's the usual stuff, no more security updates, and no Microsoft support. But what is new in Office 2007 is that we will no longer guarantee Office 365 integration for out-of-support products. And that's really the big change that has changed since the Office 2003 release to the Office 2007 release, is the pervasiveness of Office 365. And in an Office 365 environment that's always up to date and always moving forward, these products that are kind of isolated pieces in time of software gradually lose capabilities, lose connectivity, don't support the latest protocols. And so once that 10-year point is up and we stop patching and actively managing that software, we can no longer guarantee Office 365 integration. Specifically for Exchange, Exchange 2016 doesn't work with Office 2007. In Exchange 2016, we're using a new protocol to connect to Outlook, and it's a protocol that's not available in Office 2007. So this is definitely something to consider if you're thinking about upgrading Exchange 2007 at the same time. You need to really be careful in how you order the upgrade project so you can guarantee continuous mail flow to your users as well. Exchange Online will block Office 2007 from October 2017. So once Office 2007 is out of support, we will finally turn off the last bits of Exchange Online that are relying on that Exchange 2013 code base. And so Exchange Online will actually stop those Office 2007 clients from connecting to Office 365. And then past that, because we won't be actively testing, monitoring, and supporting the software, there are no warnings for deprecations that we'll introduce into Office products or Office 365 connections from that date as well. So these are important moments, and generally what we try to do is make sure that you're aware of these challenges and have all of this documentation published 12 months in advance of these particular moments. The nice thing about Office and our commercial software at Microsoft is that you always know when these end of support dates are coming. We publish our end of support dates on our Microsoft Lifecycle site, essentially the day we release the software. And so once we release the software, when we released Office 2007 in November 2006 and January 2007 for the retail copies, we published this October 2017 date. And so it's really a kind of a 10-year window to plan around, which gives you a lot of time to bake this into your IT plans, make sure you have a budget assigned, and if a deployment takes a long time, you can even budget it across years and those sorts of things. Of course, not many people do, and so it comes down to the last-minute effort to try and upgrade as well. So before we go into how to upgrade, I kind of want to share just kind of the journey that we were on at Microsoft through this Office 2007 life cycle. We started actively developing Office 2007 in 2003. In parallel to the Office 2003 product being finalized and shipping, some teams in Office start to work on the next product. And the first ones to do that, our user experience team, our program management team that are writing specs and designing features for newer versions as well. We just released Office 2003, SharePoint 2.0, Microsoft InfoPath for the first time in 2003. And the focus at the time was around XML, instant messaging, team calendars, document workspaces. Junk email was a particular problem in this 2003 era that we were really consistent and focused on as well. And so the kind of initial problem space that we were working with as we were building Office 2007 was around how do we manage these business productivity processes as teams get larger and as we change from an individual productivity tool to a group or a collaboration productivity tool as well. Kind of outside in the industry, and I wanted to kind of remind you what 2003 was like. Anyone remember internet cafes? Internet cafes, I think internet wasn't as pervasive as it was now, so internet cafes had popped up everywhere. I remember traveling at the time, and you'd go to an internet cafe in essentially any city in the world, you'd find internet for $4 an hour or something like that that would keep you going. Of course, now you pay that much for gigabytes on your phone. We had a really long beta period for Office 2007. We actually released 4 betas of Office 2007 because we wanted a lot of that feedback on the ribbon. In tandem with when we shipped the betas, we also released Windows XP Professional for 64-bit. WSUS, so Windows Server Update Services, shipped for the first time. We announced Windows Vista, at the time codenamed Longhorn, as the next Microsoft operating system. And of course, YouTube was released in 2005, Google Maps in 2005, Wi-Fi hotspots. And about this time, internet cafes started to become just cafes as people brought their own laptops to the places. And I think that's kind of stuck around since. So fast forward to 2007. It was a pretty big year as we released this software. The Office 2007 client programs, Office SharePoint Server, Microsoft Exchange Server 2007, Office Live Communication Server 2007, Ribbon, OpenXML, the file format changes, enterprise content management, business intelligence tools, all of these things shipped in that 2007 release as well. And we were feeling pretty good about this. It was the #1 selling software on Amazon for 2007. We were the most innovative solution at CES that year, 2007, and those sorts of things. And then towards about 3 months after we'd shipped Office 2007, major change in the marketplace happened. Someone had invented a device that combined a music player, an internet communication device, a computer, all in the one device. And yes, I'm talking about the Palm Centro. And of course, the iPhone shipped at the same time. It took about a month before people were asking when Microsoft would release Office on the iPhone, which is kind of a strange thing once you've spent 4 years building an Office software. How fast do you think we can turn around a mobile app? And is this phone even successful? And at the time, the first version, while it was groundbreaking, was fairly expensive, fairly limited. It wasn't until a few years later that the iPhone really caught on. Perhaps because of people remortgaging their houses to buy iPhones, we entered the recession in 2008. In Australia, I'm originally from Australia, and at the time we called this the global financial crisis, or as Australians we shorten everything, just the GFC. But it seems lately newspapers are referring to it as the Great Recession, which sounds very, very historic. But it was a major challenge at the time. And I remember at Microsoft, our focus very quickly switched to how can we help customers save money and save as much money as possible. There's no big budgets for IT spend anymore. There's no massive capital investments to refresh hardware. And our 2007 products required significantly faster hardware, new servers than the 2003 ones were. So this was a real problem and a sticking point for many customers. And so that was really when we started working on BPOS and Office 365, our cloud services. We really understood from the recession that we had to help customers lower that deployment cost, remove the deployment cost of just running Office 365, running these kind of core productivity services. We talk about democratizing these technologies, that everyone has email now. It's no longer a competitive advantage to different organizations. It's really a democratized technology that every organization needs. And that's something that in Office 365 we can run at once in a state-of-the-art environment for many organizations. Of course, at the same time in 2008, we also had another major inflection point in technology. The first kind of multi-touch tablet was released. This is the HP multi-touch tablet. I think it sold about 500 units. And of course, 3 months later, the iPad was released. Those devices are about the same size. I think they have just vastly different size hands in that picture. So in 2013, we entered the extended support phase of Office. And so all of our products at Microsoft have these two phases. They have a mainstream support period for 5 years, where we take bug fixes, design change requests, security updates, and feature updates as well. In that 5-year period, we have kind of the main team still working and still updating that software. Office works a little bit different to some of the other teams in Microsoft in that we don't have a separate sustained engineering team. Our own engineering team works on all of the products in market. So if you are in the Excel team, you work on the new version of Excel as well as the old version of Excel to keep that current as well. We think that helps kind of foster more quality in the code in that particular process as well. And so in this extended support period, what changes is we go down to more of a skeleton crew working on the extended support. And we still provide security updates and we still patch the products in these phases, but we don't take any more design change requests, and we don't take support calls unless customers have an extended support agreement that usually they get through their software assurance licensing or enterprise agreements or through Premier services and those sorts of things as well. And in 2013, we also released our Office 365 Pro Plus product, which was really Office 2013 at the time, delivered in a much more cloud-friendly way. Now, click-to-run packaging technologies rather than an MSI. And then fast forward to 2017, and here we are. And for the Office team, for that final skeleton crew, it's celebration time. We can finally move on to greener pastures and work on newer things as well. But for you as customers, it really puts you in an interesting position. If you're using older products like Office 2007 or Office 2010, now is the time to start planning where you go next. And at this point, there's really a decision point to make. Do you adopt the cloud and embrace the cloud model and use this as an opportunity to move to Office 365? Or do you continue on an on-premises upgrade path as well? And at this stage, most organizations we see are moving to Office 365. We've really crossed that threshold now that the majority of our Office customers are Office 365 customers. And we expect that trend to continue as well because the economics of Office 365 are really outweighing the costs of doing an on-premises upgrade and running that infrastructure yourself over time as well. But we'll talk about both of these options and what they mean to upgrade these products to the latest versions as well. So as we set forward, and as we're thinking about these upgrades, it's also interesting to think about where you'll be when you end of life this next upgrade as well. As IT, we do a very bad job of planning for end of life events. Generally, when we're doing our financial forecasts, we'll say we'll have investment periods over 5 years, over 10 years, those sorts of things as well. But we don't factor in that there is a project to actually remove this software down the line as well. And that's something to definitely consider as you're thinking about moving to either Office 365 or the on-premises upgrade. What is the environment that your users will be operating in when you finally get around to retiring that next upgrade? What are the things that you can do now to future-proof yourself a little bit to make that easier as well? I thought I'd share just a couple of trends that we see as well. I really like this quote from the World Economic Forum about this fourth industrial age. And their point of view is that the first industrial age was really about steam and water and using power to drive things rather than human effort. The second industrial age in the late 19th century around electricity and mass production, think the Model T car and those sorts of things. The third age in the 60s and 70s where electronics, robotics, IT started to come to the forefront. And rather than just an extension of that electronics and PC age, more and more people are considering us about to enter this kind of fourth industrial age. And the fourth industrial age is characterized by a few different things. Firstly, the ability of having unprecedented processing power, unprecedented storage, unprecedented access to knowledge, and also the blurring of lines between what is a physical asset, what is a digital asset, and what is essentially almost a biological asset as well. And as you think about some things in these, let me give you some examples of how this kind of may play out. 3D printing can allow you to print essentially any device on demand. What does that mean for copyright? What does that mean for trademarks and those sorts of things? Can you continue to charge hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Mercedes knob or something that goes in the engine? Or those sorts of things can very quickly change as we start to think about this new economic, this new industrial age as well. The other thing that's kind of interesting is it's a mind shift change as well. This view of starting to leverage the technology in partnership with human ingenuity, with partnership with robotics, is quite an interesting trend as well. As we think about our software, and these are the kind of 4 big things that we really focus on in Office around collaboration, mobility, intelligence, trust, and you would have heard of this in the keynote a little bit yesterday. But it's interesting how these things have changed just between 2007 and 2017 now as well. In the old days, we were thinking about sharing files and managing workflows and those sorts of things in collaboration. Now, very much collaboration is not just an intra-company thing. The whole idea of a company has changed now with vendors and consultants and partners and joint ventures, even competitors. We have this kind of friendly co-opetition at Microsoft with a lot of our other competitors and collaborators across the industry as we work on the Office team very closely with Apple. The Windows team, fervent enemies of Apple. And then Windows working very closely with Google to make sure Chrome runs. But of course, in the Office team, at odds with Google. And so you have these frenemies or these co-opetition environments which pose really interesting challenges at how you collaborate and get work done in these sorts of environments. And I'm sure you can imagine some other examples in industry standards bodies and centers of commerce where you have those same sorts of conflicts arising as well. On the mobile side, the change of a laptop used to be a mobile solution in 2007. Now we're seeing this kind of mobile phone-first environment. It's been interesting for us to watch the change of usage in Outlook. Outlook is the #1 most used Office app, which is probably no surprise to any of you. It runs about 9 hours a day on average. It works harder than most people do, I think, in terms of running in the background. And an Outlook desktop session is generally about 30 to 40 minutes at a time that someone is actively open and using Outlook. On the mobile phone, anyone want to take a guess what the average time of using Outlook Mobile is? 20 seconds. 20 seconds is the average session on Outlook for mobile, which is a total different way of designing and thinking about the software. Now, of course, Outlook Mobile is on average open 200 times a day. Which is kind of crazy to think, like 20-second sessions, 200 times a day. That's almost kind of scatterbrained usage of Outlook on mobile through the day. But essentially, that's the world we're living in now that we didn't even envision in 2007. Intelligence is this new theme that's coming up a lot as well. And we used to talk a lot about business intelligence, how to make sense of the data that you had. But more and more now what we're seeing is it's not about you making sense of the data. It's about training artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms to make sense of that data for you so that you can drive insights from the data quicker without having to do that. And so this notion of intelligence has changed very much to be essentially outsourcing of intelligence or intelligence amplification through using technologies to filter down just the huge corpus of knowledge that we have available to any modern business now. And finally, trust and compliance and regulatory concerns as well. And in 2007, Sarbanes-Oxley was fairly well understood. It was introduced in 2002. So really what we were talking about mostly when we were thinking about regulatory compliance was Sarbanes-Oxley. We were worried about malware and junk mail and spam filters and those sorts of things. But fast forward to today, cyber espionage, information warfare, it's not only just bad actors, but it's nation states, it's hacktivism. The amount of regulations that the average business needs to comply to or wants to comply to win certain contracts has grown as well. So ISO 27001, ISO 27018, FERPA, FISMA, there's UK standards for government cloud, EU model clauses and those sorts of things. This notion of regulatory compliance has expanded and expanded as well. And so these are major changes, and they're not just little changes. It's not just a continuation of the theme as we had in 2007. This is a fundamentally different way of thinking about technology and business that is an interesting challenge for a lot of organizations to adjust to as well. And so we need to adjust our thinking as well. As I mentioned, these are kind of the 4 big areas that Microsoft believe are the real value adds to organizations through productivity software as well. But for IT organizations, the role of IT has to change. This role of IT is really more of a service and a customer empathy role than perhaps a technology enablement role that it has in the past. as more and more of these cloud services are built and are created, not just from Microsoft, but your Salesforce applications, your CRM applications, industry-specific applications, this cloud model is changing the way that IT needs to think, as more of a customer enabler, as knowledgeable about what all these cloud solutions can do, and being able to essentially align them with the business need at the right time. So it's a fairly interesting shift for IT to move essentially up the value stack away from the technology and hands-on screwdrivers and worrying about storage and those sorts of things, to much more of a consultative business relationship role as well. So there's a couple of myths that, if you're coming from Office 2007 or Office 2010, that still linger about Office 365. So I want to address a couple of these as well, very quickly as well. Office 365 is continuously updating, so it'll break my business applications. The reality is Office 365 updates won't negatively break your existing applications. We spend a lot of time testing and flighting and monitoring telemetry to make sure that every Office 365 update and every Office update is as stable as possible as well. We work really closely with the top software vendors on our platform to make sure that they have a direct line to Microsoft, that we're doing joint testing of their applications to make sure that Office-compatible solutions are available to you to use as well. And then, of course, we also have telemetry, processes, guidance, and best practices so that you can be safe in the knowledge of how these updates will impact your organization as well. There is still this fear of data being outside of the organization's control. And this is a challenging one. And it's almost kind of like a innate caveman or lizard brain fear. And I have it myself sometimes where I think, well, if I can see my PC, I can know it's secure. But honestly, that's not the case anymore. There are so many changes in the environment. The average time to detect a hack in an organization is something like 292 days. And that's only of the organizations that know they've been hacked. And really, more and more organizations are moving to this model of assuming breach, assuming we've been hacked. How can we limit the damage that any one hack can do to our environment? And the reality is moving to Office 365 and moving to the cloud gives you actually more control over your data. Because in addition to the control of the data that you have in your server room or on your domain, you can start to reach out and start to manage devices that have never touched the domain, like mobile phones, being able to separate your personal content from your work content on those devices, being able to remotely wipe devices, whether that's laptops or phones, and being able to use the kind of cloud computing capabilities to make sure you have unlimited archives and unlimited space for mail so that you're not losing any content just by pure storage costs as well. So all of these things are kind of a benefit in Office 365. And the time that you save by not having to worry about adding hardware, managing that hardware, you can put to other uses as well. Right now, we're running at almost about 4.9 reliability in Office 365. Our SLA is a 3.9 SLA, which means that we basically say 99.9% of the time is our financially backed uptime for Office 365. 99.9% roughly works out to about 43 minutes of allowable downtime a month. And that's not just from 9 to 5, that's throughout the entire month of time there. And so I challenge most organizations to be that reliable with their own systems as well, whether it's Exchange, whether it's SharePoint. Generally, scheduled maintenance is usually 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes it's a whole weekend to apply certain patches. And so the security and the uptime that you can get out of Office 365 is really second to none there. And I have not seen any organization be able to keep the same level of reliability up in their own systems. And the final myth is the cloud is great, and I'd love to get to the cloud, but it's just too hard to get there. It's challenging, it's complicated. I don't have the time or the effort or the skills. And the nice thing about Office 365 is It changes your relationship with Microsoft as well. Rather than just a software provider, we become a service provider to you. And as part of a service provider, we need to get you on the service. We can't charge you a monthly rate for software if you're not using it. That's something you drop pretty quickly. And so the onus is on us to make that migration path as easy as possible. And we have tools, processes, partners. We have an entire fast track team that will help organizations migrate to Office 365 at no charge. And so that's something that we spend a lot of time talking about, because we really want to make that decision as easy as possible. Take the cost of upgrade out of the equation. What would you rather be doing with your time for Office and Office 365 and Exchange and SharePoint? And that's essentially what we've invested in, making our migration experience as easy as possible. So, what do we do now? Let's get to some concrete steps. Talked a lot about philosophy and how things work at Microsoft. But really choose your modernization approach. You can choose to move to Office 365 from your Office 2007 or Exchange 2007 or SharePoint 2007 environments, or you can choose to move to the Office 2016 current environments. Now, of course, you do have the option of moving to Office 2010 or SharePoint 2010, but again, the timelines for their end of support are coming up pretty soon as well. Office 2010 ends in October 2019. And so you're really just buying yourself another 2 years before you need to do the next upgrade at that point of time as well. Office 2016, of course, will be supported until 2025, I believe, is the end of support date for Office 2016. So that kind of gives you another 10 years of time on that platform. Moving to Office 365, that's a one and done type move. Once you're on Office 365, again, the onus is on us to keep you up to date with all the latest capabilities. And we make sure that those updates come seamlessly and don't interrupt your uptime there as well. I talked a little bit about Fast Track earlier, and so let me talk a bit more about what our Fast Track service does. This isn't a consulting engagement. This isn't anything like that. Basically, what we've done is taken some of our Office engineers off the bench, away from writing code, to work directly with customers. And essentially what we assign you a set of resources, a Fast Track manager, a Fast Track engineer, and these people will help you understand your environment and help you migrate into Office 365, whether that's files from a file share into SharePoint Online or OneDrive, or whether that's coming from a SharePoint on-premises environment, or even if you have things in Google Drive or Box or Dropbox and those sorts of things, we can help you move that content into Office 365. And of course, mail migration from Exchange, from Lotus Notes, from GroupWise, or from any IMAP provider, we can help automate and migrate that content in as well. This is not an extra cost. This is just included in the cost of buying Office 365 when you buy more than 50 seats of Office 365. If your organization is less than 50 seats of Office 365, we have automated tools that are fairly good about moving all of that content already. What we see is this 50 seat and up places where you start to run into very specific challenges. The data is too big to migrate overnight, so you have to do it in batches and those sorts of things. And that's where our Fast Track team can really help. Fast Track is also a set of guidance, resources, and best practices, so we can provide that content for you as well. And finally, we focus on helping you not only just deploy and migrate, but also adopt the software and drive value, help make sure your users are trained on what's different and what's changed as well. And this is all provided for no cost. And you can find out more at fasttrack.microsoft.com as well. We've seen a lot of success with this Fast Track approach. For most customers, and this is something from a philosophy point of view, we don't want you to have to learn all of the ins and outs of migrating to Office 365, because it's not like an on-premises upgrade where you have to do it every few years. This is something that you'll do once and you'll never have to worry about again. And so we don't want you to spend your brain power learning about how to do all the migration steps. We'd much rather you work out how to migrate, how to focus on archiving, compliance, and all the other capabilities that Office 365 enables, rather than just the kind of move aspect as well. And so by having Microsoft do it, we learn as well, and we essentially build that back into the product and automate more and more steps. So we expect that at time, we'll have the automated tools that can do any sized organization. Right now, we have kind of a hybrid of what we call carbon and silicon working on the solution. So we have people, and we have our technology and processes helping at the same time as well. Software assurance planning services is another benefit that we provide a lot of our customers as well. This is essentially time for you to spend with either a Microsoft consultant or a Microsoft partner to help you identify and plan for your upgrade, whether that's an upgrade on premises or an upgrade to Office 365 as well. So that's definitely something to consider as well. They're called software assurance planning services. They're available for Office, for desktop all up if you're looking at Windows and Office at the same time, for Exchange, SharePoint, as well as Office 365 migrations as well. So show of hands, who's considering their next upgrade to be to Office 365? One. And who's considering another on-premises upgrade? Okay, a couple as well. Great. Let's talk about the on-premises upgrade approach as well. There's new hardware. There's a different release cadence, and there's change management to think about when you're looking at those particular upgrades as well. Let's start with Exchange. So for Exchange, essentially, there has been a fairly significant change in the way that the Exchange servers look from the 2007 days to 2016. 2007 was the first time we introduced 64-bit computing to the Office server stack. It was a huge change back then. I still remember people saying, how much RAM do I need to run Exchange 2007? Man, I'll never afford that. Exchange 2016, fast forward, 64-bit only. Really, we recommend 8 gig minimum on the mailbox servers, and Edge transport 4 gig minimum. Storage size is going to be the killer there, and that depends on your organization. In the 2007 days, most organizations got away with 50 to 150 meg of space. Expectations now from users is that they get gigs of space for their mail. The challenge with not providing gigs of space for their mail is what we see, and you can probably check in your own organizations. If that's a concern, you start to see a lot of outbound traffic going to Hotmail or Gmail or Live.com as users just forward their mail directly to a consumer provider. And then, of course, you lose all control, all auditing, and all compliance and those sorts of things as well. So calculating the space you need is an important consideration as well. Expectations have changed. Users aren't expected to be limited by the size of attachments. And so that's something to definitely consider. They're expecting their mailbox to grow infinitely. Your lawyers and your corporate affairs people have finally got a little smarter at technology and are looking at solutions like e-discovery and audit compliance. Who's familiar with e-discovery? Has anyone been involved in an e-discovery project before? Yeah. It's an interesting process, and it's really driven by lawyers. And so in the discovery period of a lawsuit, the lawyers will essentially agree on the amount of information that needs to be discovered and sent to court. And that's kind of a discussion that can go back and forward. And of course, if they're outside counsel, they'll generally charge per page of document to read and those sorts of things. And so having a huge discovery corpus of digging up every email from 2008 or something like that is a very expensive process. And so generally in that discovery phase, they negotiate core terms. So anything related to this project or this person is what's in scope. And so e-discovery tools essentially allow you to trim that corpus down as small as possible and export it to provide lawyers. And the smaller you can get it, the cheaper it is for them to provide their legal services. And so that's a really important case as well. For us at Microsoft, we have some case studies on how our own legal department has used e-discovery to reduce our costs, and it's quite significant. As you can imagine, we have a lot of lawyers at Microsoft and a lot of cases, but this e-discovery approach has saved like 10x, I think, from our legal and corporate affairs team. SharePoint migration is a little tricky. So as you upgrade to SharePoint Online, you need to think about whether you're going to leave something on premises as a hybrid environment, or you're going to move it all to online. And so we have tools that can help move files and documents from Microsoft, and that's something we provide for free. But often you've customized SharePoint. You've built an intranet site or a line of business portal and those sorts of things. And those aren't readily migratable. And so there are some specific considerations that you need to make when moving SharePoint servers to SharePoint Online. For on-prem to on-prem, upgrading SharePoint 2007 to SharePoint 2016. Unfortunately, there's no single hop migration. So to migrate SharePoint 2007 to SharePoint 2016, you need to upgrade SharePoint 2007 to SharePoint 2010, SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013, SharePoint 2013 to SharePoint 2016. So there is a 4-hop upgrade process here, so it can be quite time-consuming. And again, in the trailing 10 years, the system requirements have expanded quite dramatically. So the hardware that you may be running your current environment on may not be able to handle SharePoint 2016 from that environment as well. And again, expectations have changed in these collaboration environments as well. Users expect to be able to access these documents from anywhere, on their mobile devices, when they're working from home. They shouldn't need solutions like VPNs. They should be able to store as much documents as they think is relevant to their organization as well. So those sorts of things are things to consider. And often these things point organizations to SharePoint Online just to make it easier to handle the amount of data and the access anywhere scenarios. SharePoint application development has changed quite considerably over the time as well. And so now as we look at SharePoint 2016, we really have a combined development model for SharePoint 2016 and SharePoint Online. It's a much more web-friendly model, whereas in SharePoint 2007, it was a very customized experience to customize SharePoint 2007. Now, there's no easy way to migrate customizations that you've made in SharePoint 2007 to SharePoint 2016. That's a rewrite of that particular code and that particular upgrade. So again, that is something to consider as well. For the Office clients, again, you have a couple of choices as well. And something to consider here is whether you want to manage a managed deployment, that is, use something like System Center to push out those updates to all those users, or you want to rely on a self-installation and have users pull down the software directly from the Office 365 portal. So again, that is something to consider in how you approach this. We have a lot of guidance and documentation in some of the other sessions, so if you missed them yesterday, I'd encourage you to check out the recordings that we'll post up on the tech community in the next couple of weeks. So it's a big change. Office 2007. Did anyone buy Office 2007 in Best Buy or Radio Shack? Does anyone remember the box? It was this big plastic box, and top support call we got at Microsoft was often how to open the box. We were a little too smart for our own good in that particular box. Now, if you buy Office, even in the store, and you open up that box, that it's a little too small to fit a DVD in, so it's a little strange. And you open it up, and what you find inside is a piece of paper with a 5x5 digit code and office.com/download. And so even if you buy a physical copy today, it is actually a digital package that users click to run to stream down from our Office delivery service as well. This streaming installation is very different to the local installation using an MSI software as well. It's much faster. It's self-patching. You can patch without having to restart the machine. Essentially, the patch will apply itself, and then you'll see those new features the next time you start up Office. It's a user-based licensing approach rather than a volume licensing approach, so you don't need a key management server or anything like that. You don't use multiple activation keys if you're using that. And it's licensed against essentially the cloud service, so it checks back against Office 365 to activate as well. So that is the big difference. In Office 2016, we still have a volume license version. The difference there is that it's still, you can use the KMS or the Mac activation, but it doesn't get those streaming updates. It installs slower, and it won't get new features applied to it as well. Again, application development has changed quite a bit in this time as well. Between Office 2007 client apps, InfoPath, and those sorts of things, Now we look at more of these cloud-native solutions as well. And so Office has moved from being a platform that you want to build deep integrations to really one that you want to loosely couple to when you're building these applications as well. And so we see more of this web-style development in Office 365 now. If you're using InfoPath today, we have a solution called Power Apps. And Power Apps is essentially our successor to InfoPath. And so that is a tool that you can use to build forms using workflows and other rich capabilities. And the benefits of Power Apps, of course, is that you can start to access those forms on a mobile device, on a Mac, on a PC, on an iPad, an Android tablet, and those sorts of things. And so that's opened up a number of different capabilities for these sorts of applications as well. So next steps from here. Firstly, identify the products that you have in use. This is something that often is quite easy to do for the majority of your environment, but there's always a long tail. There may be Access 2007 running in some branch office, running some business critical process that can be quite hard to find. And so if you don't have a sophisticated inventory system set up, definitely start to inspect those. Use some of the Windows tools to actually inventory your environment, to understand which applications are running, which patch states they're in as well. I'd strongly recommend moving to Office 365. This is an interesting situation for us at Microsoft. We build both products. It's the same team that builds both Office 365 and Office 2016. And we love all of our children. It's just one of them is a math whiz and a quarterback, and the other one is working at Wendy's. So we still continue to build Office 2016 environments. We'll probably continue to release new ones in the future as well. But Office 365, we really believe, is a better solution. Having those updates trickle out rather than waiting for 3 years of change to build up. Then you need to do change management for users. You need to do retraining. It's a costly exercise. This kind of operational model of Office 365 is really proving out to be quite successful. And now we're seeing most organizations move to it, whereas in the past it was very much an early adopter technology capability as well. Again, look for opportunities in your IT roadmap. If you don't have an IT roadmap, work on one today. Understand the products that you have today, where they are in their support life cycles, and what you can expect from those support life cycles as well. It's really important to have that conversation with not just your IT team, but your business users as well. Understand the difference between mainstream support, extended support, and what organizations can expect. If you're planning an ERP system or a CRM system upgrade, understand that they are quite closely linked with how people use Office and Excel and Outlook. And so it's important to consider those things in a holistic way. And an IT roadmap is a great way to understand that as well. User communities are incredibly important. And what we generally find now doing these for many years is there's about 10% of any organization that actually want to be early adopters. That if you give them the latest technology, they will take it. And so what we've seen work really well in a lot of organizations is to focus on this early adopter model and have an opt-in approach where early adopters can sign up for the latest software. They can be your guinea pigs. They require less effort, less training. They can provide bugs when things aren't working for your organization, but they're not going to be blocked. They can work around the issues on themselves and they can keep going as well. Those users are incredibly valuable because as you get out to that larger deployment cycle, those users are there and they're already in the company, in the organization, and every person in the team knows who the genius with the latest version of Office or the latest technology is. And they actually take that load off your help desk just by being in that team and being early adopters as well. Familiarize yourself with new Office capabilities. If you haven't seen Office 365 and Office 365 Pro Plus, I'd encourage you just to start a trial. We do 30-day trials that you can spin up very quickly and run. The cost of buying 1 or 2 copies of Office 365 is very small. And it's really important to keep an idea on where that technology is going as well. And you'll see from us a lot of changes. Our blog has moved to something that we used to update once a week to now something that's daily. In my team, and there are about 400 people in the building I work in, all working on Office. And you'd think we're in such close proximity, we'd know what was going on in all those environments. But oftentimes, even for us, reading the blog is the first thing that we do every morning, just to understand how teams are shipping software and when different pieces are being shipped as well. And finally, work with us, work with Microsoft. Take advantage of Fast Track so you can work directly with our engineering team to help you get deployed in these environments as well. This is a really different time for Microsoft and a different experience for us as well. And so we really need to learn from you about what are the challenges, what's going on in our environment, because that helps us make the software better and it helps make the software more relevant to your organizations as well. So I kind of leave you with this quote that we got from a recent focus group that we're running as well. And I think it's a really interesting view of the kind of future of technology. And as we think about retiring products that are 10 years old, we often think about, well, what are we preparing ourselves for the next 10 years for? And this days of being I'm a nerd are numbered. Now it's more than just solving the technology problem. It's empathy first and critical thinking to apply the right technology to the right problem. And I think that's a really interesting insight to the way that our IT profession is going to develop over the next few years as well. So with that, thank you very much for listening. You've been a great audience today. Wish you well.